Facebook page.
On the big
So
page. Okay.
yeah, on the big page, and you and I, look, it's live. You and I will be talking right there. The nice thing too about the StreamYard is that you can, it saves it for you.
Okay.
So this is recorded. So if you
Cool.
like send it to you, you wanted to use it for something, I wanted to use it for something, we could. I don't really know
Okay.
what, but it's
I like
possible.
that. I did a video the other day with a physician who's in Arizona, and she used Zoom, but I think this functionality is better because I mean she was able to like record it and then upload it, but this way that you could just be live at the same time is better.
And can you see the comments too? Are you able
No.
to? Okay, I
Mm-mm.
think that was one thing that I was thinking that was annoying about it. But they're all like that. Only the host can see the comments for some reason.
Okay.
But
I
what you
wonder.
can do, you can go to Facebook and see the comments.
That's what I was gonna
So,
do is just
but
pull
they're
up.
all like that.
Oh,
Only the host can see the comments for some reason.
hold on. Okay. Sorry, I had to kill my volume.
Oh,
Okay.
I like put it on and I was, oh gosh, now all my stuff's like dinging. Hold on. My child.
All the notifications.
Ding, 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 ding. This is a new. So I didn't realize it had been a year. So for everybody, I'm Adrian Wood. This is my page, Tales of an Educated Debutante. This is my good friend and my PA, Angela Thatcher, who has a business called Lifelong Health and Wellness. Is it Lifelong NC Health and Wellness?
No, it's Lifelong Health and Wellness, but my website is Lifelong NC, and that's the way to find me on Facebook and Instagram.
Okay, I knew you were trying to confuse me somehow. So,
Got to keep you on your toes.
yes, Angela specializes in obesity medicine, which unfortunately for me is in my neck of the woods. And you and I reached out, or you reached out to me, obviously well over a year ago, and we kind of had this discussion. I had done a
Mhm.
talk with this woman, Dr. Stafford, who was incredible and really sort of blew my mind with some of the stuff she was telling me.
Yeah.
And Angela and I got together. So I will say I am somebody that was a skinny little kid, always ate a bunch of food, was thin, and life went on about its business. And then probably maybe college-ish, like noticed like, oh, I weigh 144 pounds, which seemed,
Hmm.
like a lot at the time. And I would exercise or maybe do Weight Watchers, and I would get back down to 115 or 120 or 125, whatever it was.
Hmm.
Um, had children, went on, and just kind of found that I would do something. I mean, even when I go through my old videos now, it's like, woo, you can see where I was in the moment of
Hmm.
basically how my face looked, really. And Melanie just said, I've lost 50 pounds with Angela. So I think when I met with Dr. Stafford, what I learned from her is, and I would say this to anybody, and then I'm going to let Angela talk, but I think what I learned was it's not your fault. And I always thought it was my fault, like that I was weak and I just couldn't stick to what I was supposed to be doing. It was just always this thing of like, well, you should exercise or eat more vegetables or don't eat french fry. It was just always you. And
Hmm.
I just was like, why can't I do that? Darn it, I've got 4 kids, I've got a PhD, but I can't do something this easy. And Dr. Stafford was like, well, it's not really you, it's your brain and
It's
how
your
lots of
brain.
things
Hmm.
your brain. So tell us a little bit about that because that was really life changing for me. To anyway.
Yeah. Well, I think you thought that because that's what everybody said, right? I think this is a newer thing that's being discussed and an important discussion that we're having. So I'm really thankful to you for sharing this with your followers. For a long time, I think most of us have probably heard like, it's eat less, move more, calories in, calories out. It's which kind of essentially when you boil it down, it is saying what you did of like, it's your fault. It's a willpower problem, or you're lazy, or, it's a self-control issue, or whatever it is. But
Right.
that's just not really representing what's happening, because if it was really that easy, would we have these problems that we have? On a personal level, I think a lot of us have struggled with weight before. And then when you look at like our society as a whole, it's time for us to deal with this, as a medical condition, because that's what it is. Um, so the training that I got when I started seeking out, additional training when I was working in primary care, helped me to understand that it's very complex, the things that make us gain weight. And so, to be successful, to help someone lose weight, you have to be able to, to look at that in a very individualized way, and address all of those different factors.
Yeah, and I think that was Dr. Stanford told these stories, and then I was like, okay, so this maybe isn't my fault. And what she explained was, it is not your stomach that tells you you're hungry, it's your brain. Well,
Yeah.
well, that was
Right.
mind-blowing. Like,
Like, how
my
crazy
whole
was
life,
that?
I
Like,
thought I'm starved, and I never knew it was my brain. I mean, why does
yeah.
it
And
it's the thing.
there's hormones. You hear people throw around like the word hormones all the time, but
Right.
there's a lot more hormones probably than we realize. I think sometimes when we think hormones, we think about the like estrogen and progesterone and testosterone, or maybe we think about thyroid hormones, but there's actually a lot more hormones that come into play when it comes to weight. And when you talk about like appetite, there's two big hormones that control our appetite. And ghrelin is the one that tells us we need to eat, and leptin is the one that tells us that we're satisfied. And so it's kind of this constant, back and forth between those two that drives, how hungry we are. And that's why, when you think about it, some people might have had the experience of like they just feel hungry all the time. They're always hungry. And then other people, it's just like, I don't know, I could, take it or leave it. I don't need to eat anything. It's not a personality difference. It's a hormone difference.
And say those 2 hormones again, Sharon asked. The leptin
Um,
tells you that you're not hungry.
yeah, and ghrelin is the one that tells you that you're hungry.
Is that
I
like
remember
grilling
that
a
because it's um I remember ghrelin because, it's like your stomach is growling, like that just stuck in my brain. So that's the one that tells you you're hungry, and then leptin is the one that tells your brain that you're satisfied.
I thought it was like, I'm grilling some steaks. I'm grilling.
And then
Mm,
you got insulin that, is a hormone that's kind of in there doing all kinds of things, when it comes to different parts of weight. But I mean, that's a good example of, you don't get to control your hormones, right? Like, that's not something under your control. And
no.
so medicines, now we are getting better medicines, and now they're targeting specific things like those hormones, like the injectable medicines that, a lot of people are hearing about and talking about online right now. Are, one of those specific things they do is they help us to, be more sensitive to leptin. So they help us use leptin better. And the result of that is you don't think about food all the time.
Mhm. So that's what I'm on. So I started on, well, when I started, so it was a year ago today. I was trying to find my piece of paper with my measurements on it, darn it. And I hope nobody threw it away in here. Would have been me to throw it away. So when I
As
started,
soon
I
as
was,
you said that, I got that visual of you measuring
yes,
your.
yes, I measured my face. I got my measuring tape right here. Yeah, I mean, and I was going to put up a reel today, and it just was a busy day. So I measure like this. This is one measurement, but this measurement has never really changed. I don't know how good it is. But I started at 186, and it was interesting. I told you this last year. The time before that, it was like I was at 181, and then the diet before that was 176, and then there was 171. I even found one today where I was 161. Well, I mean, that's bad. So now I'm at about 157. I gained
Mm-hmm.
some weight on the cruise. And so really 30 pounds ish. And I was doing
Mm-hmm.
Saxenda, which was a daily shot. And then I moved, kind of hit a transient point and moved to Wegovy. And I think you said I'm just getting ready to go up on the dose for Wegovy. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
If
and
you're,
Wegovy is a weekly shot for me, which I like better. And it's been great. It just makes me not think about food all the time. And I've been trying to drink more water. I've done a couple walks this week. I haven't even told Angela that. I knew she was going to be excited.
go
I
girl.
I play a game with myself of like, you can't make me do something. It's me and me. So it's nothing amazing, but I'm, trying. How long can you take the medicine? Forever, correct, Angela? Is that right?
Yeah. There are people who don't use it that way. And that, that's kind of a whole nother discussion. But like, let's talk about it tonight in the realm of, if obesity is a chronic medical condition, then we should treat it that way. And anything that we do to lose weight, if we stop doing that, we're going to struggle with weight regain. Like most of us have had that happen before, right? We've done some particular diet where we maybe cut out, carbs. Maybe we went super low carb and we lost some weight. And then at some point we were like, okay, well, I'm going to eat carbs again. And then, you started seeing weight creep back up. So with the medicines like Wegovy, um, if they're the way that they're helping you is that they're controlling those hormones. If we take that away, then you're probably going to go back to the way you felt before, and it will be more of a struggle, um, to maintain weight loss.
Right. Yeah.
I
And
think it's important, 'cause I think weight is really a hard thing to talk about, right? It has a lot of emotional ties for a lot of us.
right,
And some people almost think of it as like taboo, right? But if we are able to talk about this as a medical issue,
right,
there's no other chronic medical condition that we would put you on a medicine and treat you until we got you to normal and then take the medicine away. Like they would never do that with your blood pressure. They would never do that with your blood sugar. That's just
right.
not how it works. Um, I will say, because I don't know how much time we'll have to venture, away from medicine, but medicine is a great tool, but medicine is not the only thing. Like medicine alone is not going to make people successful long term.
Right.
It is using that in conjunction with making changes and, eating better, getting more physical activity, addressing things that you need to address in your life, sleep, figuring out how to sleep better. So you have to get all of those things together. And in order for someone to be really successful long term with weight loss. I just wanted to be able to throw that in because I don't know. I feel like sometimes the discussion of medicine, people start to think of it as just like, okay, well, all I have to do is take this medicine. Yeah.
Right. Well, and I will say from the beginning, my journey, so I was quitting smoking too, because I thought if I quit smoking and don't start this weight loss thing, it's going to be bad, bad, bad. So I was
Mm-hmm.
doing those things, and you said, okay, I was taking a lot of Zoloft. So we went down on
Mm-hmm.
Zoloft, added Wellbutrin, which was going to help me
Mm-hmm.
quit smoking. And then
Okay.
intermittent fasting was something that you had really talked about on my subscriber page. I think we had a whole
Mm-hmm.
week on that. And I always thought intermittent fasting was sort of faddish. So you kind of said,
Mm-hmm.
no, that's healthy. And I've really done pretty well with that. I mean, barring like going on a cruise or something random, but I
Mm-hmm.
generally eat from like 12 to 7 is kind of my time for the day. And
Mm-hmm.
that does pretty well. We've always been early dinner people. So I lost 10 pounds before I started even taking the medicine. And
Hmm.
I think I know where I am now. I know I can get lower, but I know that it's on me to do it too. Like exercise helps you keep the weight off, drinking water, making good food choices,
Hmm.
whatever it is. Um, so I think even where I am now, I'm glad I'm in the 150s, but I know I could easily get in the 140s, but it's on me.
Yeah. And I think when you think about weight, it's important to kind of think about it in terms of, you hear people talk about BMI, and that can be a very useful tool for some things. But I think when you're thinking about losing weight, it's important to kind of think about like what's your kind of happy, healthy weight. And what that means is, where are you happy with how things are, and you're healthy, you've improved your health. And then the big part is you're happy with what it takes to stay there. Because, like, what's the point of getting down to a certain number if you have to do something crazy to get there that you're never going to be able to maintain? So, I
Right.
think you've done a really great job of being very sensible about how you approach things. I remember you saying one thing of like, if I'm not willing to do it for 5 years, I'm not even going to start it.
Well, and that came from that kind of thing, like anything you do, because I did Optavia, or maybe you do
Hmm.
keto or whatever. But what Dr. Stanford said was anything you do, as long as you can do it for 5 years, then that's fine. Well, nobody ever told me that before. So suddenly, like this, not drink any alcohol ever for 5 years. Not that I'm like a drinker, but I might want to drink,
Hmm.
or I might want a French fry, or I might want to go out to
Hmm.
lunch, or for me, that was kind of a big thing. Angela also says
Right.
I'm her only patient that has gotten on video for a telemed appointment eating candy. But it was a I mean, and look at this candy cane, Angela, that someone has mailed me. Where in the devil is it? My children have stolen it.
Is it giant?
Oh, giant. Well, look. I don't know where the devil the thing is. Oh, I do. Wait. I just cleaned out my office. Now I'm hiding it from myself.
I just want to say, oh my goodness.
Right? It's
That
very
is
large.
huge.
It's as wide as my new computer.
So I wanted to say I've been glancing a little bit at the comments, and I love that some different people have been kind of like giving themselves shout outs and saying like I've been able to lose this much because
Oh,
um am never able to tell those stories, even though I'm so excited about all of those stories. But though, I have to be very sensitive to people's privacy. So I love it when people are, taking credit and being proud of that and able to kind of let people give them kudos for what they've done. So that's really cool.
well, because you've seen how many followers on my blog have you seen as patients? Are you allowed to say that?
Several, a lot. I don't know a specific number. I haven't
It
counted,
was
to
about 70.
differentiate.
I
Hmm.
think it was 70 at one point.
And I'm sure at one point, yeah. And
You
I
should
mean,
count up the weight you've
many.
lost. Jeez.
I'd have to figure out how to separate you guys out, and then we could do like because I have tallied up a few times, like how many times all the patients have lost. But I have to figure out maybe how to pull out the other ones. That's a good idea.
Yeah, that'd be kind of fun.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, any other questions you see, I think are good. I'm open to talking about anything. Um, s- my doctor says, ugh, it's exhausting. I think doctors still will say,
Hmm.
you just need to do this and that and the other. And, but when I told Angela, I was hungry as a little girl, probably 9, and would go have a spend the night with somebody. And I grew up in Rocky Mount, so it was Hardee's. There wasn't any McDonald's, it was Hardee's. And you'd get a kid's meal, not a Happy Meal, kid's meal. But I remember specifically being embarrassed because I always could eat 2. And all the other friends could eat like 3 nuggets or maybe half a hamburger, and I was
Hmm.
hungry, and so that
Hmm.
I was able to identify real early on, boy, I've always been hungry. Where
Hmm.
what happens, we had said, well, what do you do when, like, what about the people that eat in the night? How does what kind of difference, what kind of approach do you take for those people that's different maybe than mine?
like people who have mostly nighttime eating. I mean, there
Yeah.
is something called nighttime eating disorder, and I mean,
Oh,
there's a very particular way we approach treatment for that.
okay.
There are people who struggle more with emotional eating, or like
And
sometimes
that's probably
people describe that
right.
as like stress eating or emotional eating, and that needs to be addressed. The medicines like Wegovy, because of the what they do with leptin, can often help a lot with that. But there also are some things that we can do that are kind of more specifically targeted in that direction. Um, Let me say something about kind of the people saying like my doctor says, or like my doctor won't help, or that kind of a thing. Um,
Mhm.
I think a lot of people don't realize we don't learn this stuff, right? Like in our current medical, training programs, PAs, NPs, MDs don't learn about this in medical school. Um,
Mhm.
it shouldn't be that way. And I think that hopefully we're making progress towards changing that. But your your doctor may believe what he believes because he's never really learned anything different. He, your doctor may have some biases, and that just may reflect like his or her own personal experiences. But the other piece is, and this is from a person who worked in primary care, God, it is a lot. What we're asking right now of the people that work in primary care is so much. It's a huge burden of just work that you don't even know that has to happen outside of your office visit. And so I think when you bring up something that's really complex, like weight loss, some people just don't have the time or the space for it, and they're like, I can't, I'm already handling these 12 problems. I can't do that. So, I guess I try to share that. Yes, there are people out there that just say ignorant things, and I've heard all kinds of horrible stories, but I think a lot of people, it's more like they don't know, or they just don't have the ability to do that and fit that in. And so I think that's where it's nice when we can have people who sort of specialize in that, and then hopefully over time we expand awareness and training so that people have a better understanding.
So Angela's in North Carolina. So if you live in North Carolina, you can see Angela. If you do not live in North Carolina, you can also see your regular doctor. If your regular doctor is somebody that's willing to talk about these things. But if not, tell them and again, her page is Lifelong NC Health and Wellness on Facebook,
So
and you're in North.
it's, if you on Facebook, if you just do like at lifelong NC, that'll take you to my Facebook page. It's the same thing for Instagram.
Okay.
My website is also like lifelongnc.com, but the name of the practice is Lifelong Health and Wellness. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, in North Carolina, definitely feel free to reach out. If you're not in North Carolina, I usually point people towards the Obesity Medicine Association has a search tool. And if you go to let's see, findobesitytreatment.org, um, that will bring up a tool where you can put in like your location and see what clinicians are in your area that have like similar training to what I've done.
Okay. Maybe after the video, you could put your link in and then that link as well. I think that
Okay,
would
I
be,
can do that.
I think that'd be really helpful. I
I
think
saw a
it's,
question. Oh, sorry.
no, you go ahead.
I saw somebody said, can you explain perimenopausal weight gain? And I know you've been talking about menopause and perimenopause a good bit. And um, I think it's important that that's probably, I all the time go on my soapbox about how we don't handle things right, for people with weight, and there's a lot of bias that exists there. I think that's probably the other big area of medicine that we're not doing very well right now, is addressing menopause for women, and So I definitely, we got a ways to go on that one too. But when you go through perimenopause, there's this big shift of hormones that's happening in that process. And there's kind of two big factors that can promote weight gain. One is that frequently that's a time when we start to struggle more with insulin resistance. And insulin resistance can affect a lot of things in our body, but it tends to make us gain weight, and it tends to make us gain weight in the middle. The other thing that happens around the time of menopause is with that change in hormones, we start losing muscle mass. And our metabolism is really closely tied to how much muscle we have. So, if your metabolism is slowing down because you're losing muscle, that ends up meaning that you gain weight. And so that, without doing some things to combat that, the average woman is going to gain like at least 10 pounds a year as they go through that process if they're not making some adjustments or doing things to try to counteract that.
Oh, that's a lot. Schmuck.
So you got to
Um,
like it's about just being aware, right? And then knowing the things that can make a difference.
mhm. Yeah, being aware, I think, is big. I think I was even thinking about my mother, who's like in her 70s, but gained weight over the last like 20 years and always been able to stay slim, and I bet nobody's
Mm-hmm.
ever told her that, like suddenly, holy
Well,
cow,
and
like I
I was gonna
know
say
that.
she's and I guess maybe that's an example of it hasn't been um as much of a struggle for her. I don't know. But I think also if you kind of ask a lot of people who've stayed thin, they'll tell you things like that they've cut back on how much they eat, or they've cut out certain things, or, that like they've been making adjustments of some kind.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, I think my mother has always been good at the, intermittent fasting or just not eating until she kinda starts eating later in the day. Um, but for me, I always where I get in trouble is like 8 to after 8 PM. If I'm like, "Oh, now what am I gonna have?" It's better for me to cut it off then. But we eat dinner super early. We're old people around here. So everybody has lots of questions, and I would encourage you,
Hmm.
these are great questions to ask your own doctor, or you can reach out to Angela. Angela's not going to give any, we don't want to give any medical advice, particularly me, who just plays a doctor on television.
Yeah, I can't do that, but I can help sometimes with pointing people in different directions. And when we started out a year ago, we actually did pretty often. We were doing some videos to try to talk about all these different things. And so it's probably a good time to revisit some of these topics. And I'll take a look and see, maybe there's some places where um, you and I can talk about some things, and it'll give me some ideas of what I can talk about too on my page, because sometimes I'm like, well, what should I talk about today? I feel like I need to do something, but I'm not sure which one it needs to be. So sometimes it's nice to know what you want to hear.
Yeah, and I think when you go through questions, you're like, how do you know how many calories to gain weight? Like, okay, we could do a whole sequence on what do I need to be eating,
Mm-hmm.
So Holly asked this question, and I think it's interesting. So what's happening with the injectable shortage? Is me taking Wegovy hurting a person with diabetes not able to get their medicine? I
Okay.
hope not.
Um, no, I don't think so. So we are in North Carolina, and all the patients that I treat and prescribe medicine for are in North Carolina. So I am the most familiar with what's happening here. And in our area, we are not experiencing the like horrific shortages that I've kind of heard about here and there. So I don't know if this is somewhat of a more of a regional issue, um,
Mm.
or if it's, I don't know. But I think there's like two things that need to be addressed. We'll see. It might be more than two. But one is what bothers me about some of the news stories and the way that that gets presented is that basically you're saying someone with diabetes deserves treatment more than someone with obesity. And I don't think that's true. I think they equally deserve treatment. And it's not fair to tell someone you don't deserve treatment because you only have obesity, but I have diabetes. So I think that's important for us to recognize. The the next thing is um, there are lots of medicines that are out there for diabetes. There are not a lot of medicines that are out there for obesity. We have a lot more limits in terms of what we can access. So
Mm.
there's some room for us to make adjustments there. But here's the other thing. We should be using these medicines responsibly. You see the stories about somebody in Hollywood who went on Ozempic to lose 10 pounds or something. Like, that's not an appropriate use of these medicines. And
Right.
so I don't promote using them irresponsibly, but I think that we have adequate supply to use them the way they should be used.
Hmm. Yeah, I was at a point where my knees hurt and I felt like if I went and did something with my kids, I couldn't keep up with them, but
Mm-hmm.
that knee hurting thing really was getting me. And then like heart health, I just did a big heart thing the other night on AFib and stroke. I don't know if you
Mm-hmm.
saw that. And um, trying
Actually,
to
I saw most of it, and I loved that you told him like I've quit smoking. I've lost this
Well,
much
I sort of
weight.
hated to do that. I mean, it was a little bit embarrassing to say to the head of Duke Heart, "Oh, you're just on the a blogger's page that was smoking 10 minutes ago." But I mean, I felt like it was important to say because
Mm-hmm.
I think you
Yeah.
want to talk about something that people don't talk about. It's that they used to smoke or they smoke. I mean, they really
Mm-hmm.
want to keep that undercover because everybody knows that's terrible for you.
Mm-hmm.
So it was nice to talk to him about it.
Mm-hmm.
And like AFib, and all these things that go with obesity. So thank you for saying that. I think that's helpful, to
Mm-hmm.
know and for people to be like, okay, I'm okay to talk about this. I think weight has such a time. I remember I knew somebody and like when she would get weighed when she was pregnant, she never wanted to know how much she weighed. And that always just made me feel sad. And I thought, okay, I don't want this number doesn't own me. So if I weigh
Mm-hmm.
186, I can say that because it's not the number is not me. I'm not a number, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and that's
Yeah.
important.
Yeah,
How
you're
did you
right.
quit
But oh, how did you
No, let
quit
me answer.
smoking?
Well, I took Wellbutrin, which I think really did help, and, uh, I don't know. I just kept thinking, if I get lung cancer, everybody's gonna be like, "Well, she deserved it. It's her fault." And I, like, just always think, if anything happens to me or my children, I don't ever want anybody to say, "Well, what was she thinking?" So, I just, have quit. I still miss it. I do. I'm not as fun. What else? Or all the other downsides. I am funny, but I'm not as fun. But, oh, yeah, I mean, I could smoke with the best of them. She's not promoting any drug. This is my 1-year anniversary of losing 30 pounds. And
Mm-hmm.
I asked Angela to come on and talk because I wanted to talk about what it's been. And I think this might be the first time that I've lost weight and a year later, I'm still there, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
By a year later, I was back up moving back up the circle because I had quit whatever it was that had helped me lose before.
Yeah. I think, that's something that I don't know that we've ever really dealt with before of, how do you maintain this? Like I heard a patient one time say, I know how to lose weight and I know how to gain weight, but I don't know how to stay one weight. And I was
Mm,
like, yeah, like, that's kind of the cycle that a lot of us go through. And um, so I think it's important to know that that is also one of those places where there are things that are happening that you don't totally have control over. So when you lose weight, one of the things that's going to happen, no matter how you lose the weight, is your body's going to make some changes to your metabolism. And like on some level, that makes sense, right? Because like if we lose 50 pounds, it doesn't take the same amount of energy to run our body and move our body around, at 150 than it did at 200. So, I mean, your body should make some changes, right? Um,
Right.
the way that we lose weight can influence how quickly our body makes those changes and how much our metabolism changes. So if you do a lot of like super low calorie restricted dieting, you're going to struggle more with your metabolism, sort of adjusting to where you are than somebody who's, maybe just trying to eat more healthy, but also doing some things with physical activity. And that's another place where that muscle mass makes a big difference. So
Mm-hmm.
so imagine like people who've done Optavia. Everybody on Optavia gets put on like an 800 to 1,000 calorie diet, right? And
Mm-hmm.
for some people, that's helppful for them to lose weight for a certain point. But they, let's say they lose 40 pounds. So when they get down here to, I don't know, 160, then their metabolism is at a very different place than it was when they started losing weight. And so if they decide, like, I'm sick of this food, I don't want to eat this way anymore, and they stop eating that, then now they're not dealing with their metabolism, their body burning, used to burning 2,000 calories every day. Now it's learned how to live off of 1,000 calories every day. And so very quickly, if you go back to eating normally, you gain weight back. And I
Right.
think it's important to kind of know that that's what's happening, because otherwise you blame yourself. You're like, I failed again, I couldn't do it. But like that's kind of a losing proposition.
Right. Right. Yeah, and again, I think that big thing I heard that was as long as whatever you're doing, if you can do it for 5
Hmm.
years, if what you're doing is sustainable for you, then have at it.
Hmm.
You know? And so even the point of now, like, okay, well, if I'm gonna do this and get down to 130, but as soon as I have one drink or one this or one that, if I can't do that, then it's not I don't want to weigh that much. I just want to kind of find a happy place and try to stay there,
Hmm.
or that's my goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's well, thank you for coming on. And I think it's always a pleasure to have you and to hear. And
Thank you.
I really am thankful for the part you've played in this because it's been huge for me. Makes me um, makes me happy. It makes me feel better, and just want to be healthy and stick around here for my kids and
That's the important
hopefully.
part.
Yeah, yeah. So somebody said, "What's your ideal body weight?" Angela, we've never really talked about that. Do you tell people what their ideal body weight is?
I don't know that I've ever had anybody ask me their ideal body weight. Sometimes people say like, "What weight do you think I can get to?" or "Where do you think I should be for my," which I guess is kind of the same thing. Um,
Uh-huh.
and I dodge that question a little bit because it's so different for different people. Like I could look on a chart and tell you, but does that really represent what would be realistic and healthy for you? Maybe not.
Mhm.
But it does become very clear as we work together where we need to be. When you kind of get to the place where you're like, okay, this is where like I'm healthy, I've fixed the things I wanted to fix, and I can stand to live this way. Um,
Mhm.
so I
Mhm.
kind of tended to phrase it more that way. But I mean, from my experience, I can talk with people individually and say, like, I think that this is a realistic goal. Or sometimes if people tell me a very specific goal, I can say, I'm not sure if that's realistic. Why don't we work on this first, and see where we go from there.
Well, and I think when I saw because I have this autoimmune disorder, so I have IVIG, and I remember when they were for some reason they prescribed the medicine based on your ideal body weight, which has never
Hmm.
does not make sense to me at all. But carry on. And my ideal body weight, I remember Dr. Scagnelli says it's 124.
Okay.
That is me losing another 30 pounds. Like I know well, one, I would look old as like Hansel and Gretel, old grandma. But I was like 124. Like when I got married, I weighed 130. Like
Hmm.
the last time I really, I mean, I feel pretty darn good at 154. I kind of in my mind think 145, one in the 140s seems
Hmm.
doable to me. Like where so I guess I know like I don't have a real goal of being in the 120s anymore.
Yeah.
But I know I
Well,
can
and
get
you
in the
have
one.
to ask yourself, like, when's the last time you were at, sometimes people, if they're like, I want to be this weight, one of the questions is
I
like,
was
okay, well, when
almost
was the last time you were there? You know?
yes.
Um, and
Long.
and then you kind of think about that. But I will say, like, I actually saw a patient this week who is at the lowest weight she's been at since she was 30. And that was really exciting to hear that. So um, I think I think that, you can
Who
have a lot
knows?
of success, but I think it's also important to say that, like, everybody is different and the things that go into this are so different for everybody. So don't feel discouraged if your story doesn't match what you see on social media. Like, it might just mean that there's something else that you need some help working on.
Right, right. Well, and yeah, who knows? Maybe I'll get really thin and old looking quickly.
I don't want you to get old looking.
Well, the roses, they're like, "Oh, it's do you get the senior special?" Well, if they ask me that, I say, "Yes, I do." Because if you accuse me of being a senior citizen, I'm going to accept my 10% off graciously. Mm.
Before we go, can I make a PSA and then a request?
Yes, you can.
So I've seen several comments about, like, the supply stuff with medicine. And
Right?
again, I can only speak to North Carolina, but if your pharmacy is telling you they can't get your medicine, call a different pharmacy. It varies a lot. So if your CVS or Walgreens or whatever tells you that they're back ordered, that does not mean that that medicine is back ordered all over the country. That just means that that pharmacy can't get you medicine until next week or next month or whatever it is. So when I say I have not had trouble with my patients getting medicine, it's because if their pharmacy says they can't get it, I just tell them to call somebody else. And it's usually a matter of, like, just calling a different pharmacy in your same town. So
Okay.
know that that's out there and that that's something that you can do. Um, Different pharmacies order from different distributors. So, like, what's going on over at the CVS is going to be different than the Walgreens and definitely than the independent drugstore, because the independent folks can order from whoever they want to. So just know
Thank
that
you.
that can be helpful. Okay. And then my
Yeah,
request is, oh, go ahead.
that's no, it's the same, like, our Food Lion has nothing right now, but if I go over to another Food Lion, I'm like, "Look, they have applesauce," or go to Walmart, "They have it, why
Mhm.
don't they?" But it's just like our Food Lion, you would think that there was a nationwide shortage on all foods. Cream, I mean, really, it's insane. Anyway, so sort of
um,
relevant.
I think this is going to be like one of the things that we tell stories about 20 years from now. We're like, before COVID, we didn't used to have all these supply issues.
Airline trouble. Yeah, yeah. And what
um,
was your other
my
piece of
request
advice?
was, I would love to have anybody who is interested in joining me over on my Facebook page as a follower. I get really frustrated at how much crap information there is out there on the internet regarding weight. And so, one of the things that's really important to me, whether you live in North Carolina or anywhere else, is being able to be a good source of information. And that's one of the things that I really want to be able to use my page for this year. So I would love to have more of you guys join me over on my page. And that way you can kind of keep in the loop of when I'm trying to share information, or glad to help out with some question and answer type stuff there too.
And can you post your link right in here, Angela? Then I can, if you post it in the comments, then I can pin it, which is
Oh,
nice
okay.
because once the video is over, you can't pin a comment.
Okay. I just did, I think.
Okay. Oh,
I
okay,
did it on my
good. Now
computer.
I'm
Did
going
it
to
show up?
pin it. See, look. Dun, dun, dun. Can you see
Can
it?
I also put that the link that we were trying to share about finding other providers? Can
Mm-hmm.
you pin more than one thing? Okay.
No, you can only pin one thing, but they'll
Okay.
be able to see it. And then I usually
I'll
tell
leave it
people
in the
when they,
comments. Yeah.
okay, perfect, perfect. So yes, go over to Angela's Facebook page and I think that would be good. Oh, perfect. Findobesitytreatment.org. I wish you could be my provider. Can't find someone around me. Well, I have a feeling if you don't live in North Carolina and you go to that website, you will find somebody. It doesn't have to be anybody in your town. It just has to be the same state, right?
I was gonna say put your state in first and don't put your town, because it's gonna bring up like a list and you can kind of scan through and see. But that's where I would start.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thanks for your time, and I'll look forward to catching up with you soon.
Thank you, Adrian, and thank you to all you guys.
Bye, guys. Thank y'all.